Good day, everyone. My name is Vladimir A. Simbahon Jr., and today I present my Privatissimum, a demonstration of the being and attributes of God by Samuel Clarke. Samuel Clarke was an English philosopher and a theologian who lived from 1675 to 1729. He was a supporter of Newtonian physics and a critic of Trinitarian doctrine. He serves as a chaplain to Queen Anne and wrote several influential works on natural religion and morality. So the question confronted to the book is that concepts, attributes, demonstration of God. The existence and omnipresence of God are the things that are undeniably true, but comprehending and understanding his nature to the utmost is challenging and needs a sharp mind to deal with it. So my thesis, God, a necessary, benevolent, unlimited knowledge, omnipresence being. A demonstration of God's being and attributes. So by this, Clarke emphasizes that God's existence is infinite but not united. While some attributes of God can be comprehended, some attributes cannot be grasped in our mind. We cannot fully verify and understand because He is beyond ours. So the paraphrase to the thesis, God, an essential, ever-loving entity, boundless wisdom, and ever-presence. So the three main points to support my thesis: first, complexity, understanding God, universe. God's presence is crucial in understanding the universe, complexity, and aesthetic appeal. According to Clarke, he asserts that the intricate design of the universe goes far beyond random chance, providing evidence of an intelligent creator. This compellingly argues for the necessity of the concept of God in explaining the overall elegance and intricacy that permeates the entire universe. Second, cause effect. Causality implies that there must have been a first cause or a primary mover for everything, creating a series of cause and effect. According to Clarke, this chain of continuous cause and effect is in a state of continuity. This series establishes an a priori connection between the two series, the cause and the effect. So understanding this notion is vital in comprehending causality. The first cause must be comprehended before we can understand its effect. The third is that moral laws, moral lawgiver. The existence of moral laws needs and requires the existing moral lawgiver. It is crucial to acknowledge that moral laws are not subject to personal opinion or societal consensus. Moral principles govern our actions and possess a universal quality that transcends cultural boundaries and individual preference. The three objections to the three main points. First, truth process synthesis. The objection to the first point is that truth requires a process of synthesis and cannot be get or obtained from basic premises alone. Kant asserts in his letter that certain truths make as necessary or having a mean process for their demonstration. Second, a priori assumptions, no sufficient justification. The objection to the second point is that there is always a dependent on a priori supposition, and it does not provide enough justification for the reality of an infinite being. Daniel Waterland's seventh letter to Clarke concerning the argument a priori, critics of this approach argue that it assumes that all beings must have certain attributes to be considered perfect, which overlooks the potential for subjective interpretation of perfection. The third, existence, infinite being cannot comprehend. So, in this, the existence of an infinite being cannot be fully comprehended. David Hume argued that an infinite being can never be fully known, not be undefinable. It must go beyond all known boundaries and categories of understanding. So, the three answers to the objections. First, synthesis, facts, concepts. To attain a higher level of truth, it is essential to synthesize facts and concepts. However, relying solely on synthesis may lead to an overly narrow or subjective truth. Different people may have different perspectives and conclusions about what is true based on their world views. Therefore, it is crucial to include different viewpoints in the process of synthesizing to have a wider capacity of truths that can be explored. The second, first cause necessary. The first cause is required and it is necessary. For Clarke, if the notion of an eternal emptiness were plausible and not absurd and not contradictory, the necessity of being and the possibility of not being are mutually exclusive concepts, and the first cause's existence would not be required. So the third answer to the objection, real apologetic satisfying account. There is a regretful and a real apologetic need in terms of making the statement for a satisfying account of why God exists. The being that exists with its capacity whose explanation is in itself. The doctrine of divine simplicity impedes this goal, regarding as considerably as possible the structural components of reason presupposed in our views for a being that exists. So the conclusion, God necessary, omnipresent, omniscient, benevolent being. God's divine presence does not have limits to any specific location, place, or space. He goes beyond time and space, and his presence can be felt everywhere and anywhere on the earth and the universe. Not only is God ever present, but he knows all also. This means that his knowledge is infinite and all encompassing. He knows everything, he knows every thought in our mind. What we tend to think, every action and every intention that has ever existed. There is nothing that is hidden from him, and his wisdom surpasses human understanding. So, my insight, God, goodness, love, compassion, present. Seeing the presence of God nowadays is so hard to acquire. Recognizing his presence in every way I do. This thought of seeing him daily might be not easy, and sometimes it is impossible because as we continue our daily life, not all that not all the time or not every day, we see the goodness and miracle of God. But how can we see God daily in our lives? God does not need to do some miracles so that we will believe in His revealed truth, but rather we can see Him and reveal Himself through the people, things, places, situations, and events around us. From this knowledge and sense, I can see God's presence and know more about His greatness more clearly. So, man makes or tends to measure God's knowledge, but none have ever established the capacity of God's mind. I acknowledge this thing about God. Everything that has ever been, is, or will be is known to Him. We can't understand this fully because only God knows what it is like to know everything. So, the question that confronted justice, mercy, infinite, eternal presence. As I go down and delve into the argument of Clark, I realize that it is a good to acknowledge or to consider the basis of our moral beliefs and to ask whether they can be a base solely on subjective human thought or social norms, and including an understanding of God as a lawmaker of all things. I see and witness that this might be very main to comprehending God. That's all, and thank you.